that should be better. So, yeah, that's better.
That's better. Take two.
Yeah, take
but
two.
Still killing the target. Yeah.
Still killing the target. Yeah, so where were we talking about your public speaking, and
we were talking about putting myself out there,
yes.
And I was just saying that I think you were spot on, as you always do, synthesizing complex situations.
Yeah.
To pull out the key aspects of me only necessarily putting myself out there within a certain comfort zone.
Okay.
So leading a deal, leading a transaction, leading a call, things that are challenging on the day-to-day, but still within what I know or can prep for. Yeah, but it's like in terms of something like this reaching 100,000 people, it can go both ways.
Because this is like a purely creative space. Like that's the problem with, and I get your point. Like you're in a domain that you understand complicitly. So like this for you, like the conversations we have we're almost like try to figure each other's problems out and try to just apply it to our lives and just try to learn in general. But I get you. Like it can be uncomfortable because it's like it's like when someone hears like you speaking for an hour, they pretty much can understand the way you think.
Yes, and I think one of the biggest challenges is being able to articulate a point well and being able to argue a point well.
Yeah,
because there are very smart people out there that can pick an argument apart. So putting yourself out there is one thing, but putting yourself out there well, one, and two, putting yourself out there where your thought process actually makes sense, I think can be challenging.
Okay.
Because we can come to a conclusion, but someone out there can find a flaw.
Yeah.
And I think as a person, you need to be able and willing to grow and accept that feedback. Because 7.5 times out of 10, we think we are right.
Yeah.
But it is possible that 7.5 times out of 10 we are actually wrong.
So here's a problem about like most people when they get famous, they figure out you can't actually think that way because you got like it's different when you live a life where your data points are like few, right? Because you can kind of like mimic and understand like, all right, this is the general consensus and this is where everyone's trying to get towards. Whereas like when you got like and that's why I think fame is so difficult to deal with, especially when you follow your own story, is that people like you get people that are not invested in you and don't care about you, like giving you random comments and telling you like this could go up and they'll be like, you sure your points here and here were invalid. And it's very difficult. Like it's very like I think actually if you're gonna be famous, you have to know who you are. You have to like surround yourself with like very few people and you've got to know who you are like implicitly. And that if someone external comes and starts questioning you, you actually like, it's just noise because it's like, nope, that's not who I am. You can't dictate my thought process because I know who's important in my life. I know where my bread is buttered type thing. So that's why I think, look, I get it for you. It's putting yourself out there and trying to get that feedback. But at the same time, it's like, and it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about like that external validation and like being a leader comes from a place of knowing. And I guess it's like, are you actually, so here's a question for you. Are you comfortable with who you are? No matter because we all have flaws.
Yeah.
But are you comfortable with who you are no matter the flaws?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's an ongoing journey. I'm still learning so much about myself, about others, how I navigate complex situations, how I navigate complex conversations. So, if I were to say that I am 100% complete,
no one's ever at 100%. But like, are you more there than like 90%, 80% there? What's the figure?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put a number to it, but I am more there than I am not there.
Yeah, okay.
So if someone were to say I'm talking nonsense or pick a hole in my argument, I think I'm confident enough in myself to accept where I think I'm wrong.
Yeah.
and confident in myself to defend where I think I'm right.
That makes sense.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I mean, there's a fine balance between being able to do that. Very often than not, your ego comes into play, and you try to defend every single point because you just want to be right, but you want to be externally validated. Someone must say,
and that's actually not beneficial at all. Like once you start just being a person that just defends shit, it's like, what's the point?
Yes, no, exactly. I think part of growing and developing as a person is being able to be flexible in your personality and persona.
Yeah, because
to be able to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be rigid to a point. So the thing that was interesting that you asked me the question is like, what are the 2 top priorities of my life at the moment? That's a hard question, man.
It's a difficult question. Now we can make it easier and make it one of the top 5, but that also makes it even harder.
I think it's like, I think at the moment something that's really of priority to me, like probably my top priority, is starting a business, and that is because I can just see that the people in our reality are like, it's a double-edged sword. You don't really get freedom unless you're the person that has the company, unless you're the person that's dictating what the corporate protocols are. But at the same time, you're trapped by that because you're that. Because there are 7,000 people that rely on you making the right decision.
Does a business have to be corporate? What if you define business as leadership?
I think, so for me, I look at a business as an entity that generates revenue. And it generates revenue independent of me operating it. So that's what, when I think of business, what I'm trying to create is an entity that does that. Because if you look at all the commonalities amongst all the richest people in the world, like one of them is that, they're at the top of their given hierarchy. So it doesn't necessarily need to be corporate. It doesn't, but it just needs to be a revenue generating entity.
Yeah, and why is hierarchy so important to you?
Because that's how we all and have always, I guess, arranged ourselves. Like even when you were in high school, like something you talk about quite often is that like when you were in primary school, you were head boy. Like you were the example for everyone else. And it's like inherently that's a human thing. It's like girls wanted to date you because you were everyone else's example. So it's like you were by definition the best the school had to offer at the time. And as you get up that any hierarchy in general, it's like if you're at the top, you want to be associated with the best, and that's, I think, in my opinion, success.
What happens if you lack complete self-confidence?
Yeah.
And you believe in a hierarchy? Does that not mean that you are waiting for somebody
to lead
you?
Yeah.
Or to validate?
Yeah, could be.
So what if you discarded and dissociated from hierarchy and you by default then took ownership of a hypothetical leadership position?
Yeah.
And that forces you to actually start the business.
I think that's the thing with starting any business is you're essentially you're being creative. You're trying to validate your own hierarchy. So instead of, and that's like if you work in a company, all you're trying to do is align yourself to the behaviors of the people at the top of the hierarchy, so that you can get there, so that they can put you there. They can decide like, okay, yeah, that this person has exhibited qualities that are similar. So if you have, like the question you said, like if you don't have the self-confidence, it's like, well, part of the problem is that like if you don't have the self-confidence to ascend a hierarchy, how the hell are you going to have the confidence to build another one?
What if the hierarchy that you're aspiring to doesn't resonate with who you are? You therefore have a platform to create
a different hierarchy.
You
can, but the problem with that is that like people can create hierarchies that are nonsensical. Like and people that are in their youth typically do that. Like that with cool cliques and whatnot, right? Like there's a cool crowd, or like there's a group of friends where the guy that's really cool is the guy that can drink a keg in one night, or like smoke all the hub, or whatever the case may be. And like, he's mastered the hierarchy that they've created, but it's not useful. I think what people in their adolescence and that make that transition into early adulthood have a difficulty doing is figuring out how can they be a part of a productive hierarchy. You know what I mean? Because when you can be creating a hierarchy is not difficult. It's not. It's just, can you find people who follow you? It's like, but is your hierarchy of use? Is it useful to society? And that's a difficult thing, because that's what creativity is.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's possible to select certain hierarchies that resonate with you, and you discard the ones that don't?
You can. But it's something you said like the other day, which was interesting, is that like, remember that quote by Fyodor Tchaikovsky, that quote about the one that you sent about like
yes about lying to yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the conversation you were having is like, how do you know if you're lying to yourself, or if it's like you believing in something that no one sees? Because it's the same thing. A lie is actually something that hasn't been validated. That's all a lie is. So like, I can come in and be like, all right, cool, let me lie to myself and create a hierarchy that does X, Y, and Z. Is it of utility to everyone else? No. Well, then I'm probably going to be lying in a ditch somewhere relatively shortly, because all my efforts they're nonsensical by society standards.
Yeah. I mean, I think the impact that your lie, a hypothetical lie, let's assume it's reality, has on other people, for me, is so important, because we can lie to ourselves and create a reality, but the impact or the ripple effect that it has on others is of a higher magnitude than the result you're going to get from that lie. Whereas if you face and accept reality, you will probably navigate the reality of a situation better, facing and navigating through whatever comes your way through that reality than creating something that's false, which has a ripple effect on others.
So that's essentially what conservatism is. Conservatism is saying that we're looking at the given structures that exist, and we're going to use the given structures as reference points. Anything new, we disassociate from it. So the thing about being creative is that I'm making something up. I'm taking something that is not there and I'm putting into your reality. And it's uncomfortable for you because you've based yourself on the way things have historically operated. And now there's someone that's just put this new thing in there. It's annoying. And that's what creativity is. Like, Facebook started because Mark Zuckerberg saw a gap. In fact, he saw a semi-gap, and he created something, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, there's value here. That's anytime even being a musician, like being a rapper, it's like you're disrupting people. It's like, what is to say, like, let us operate on the basis that I'm going to be a world famous musician in 3 years. Should I now go quit my job based on that assumption?
No, you definitely shouldn't quit your job.
Yes.
But if you lie to yourself and say that you are not good at your corporate job, therefore you must find something else, that will have a consequence. Said differently, or an alternate scenario, if you lie to yourself and say that you're not a good musician, which is far from the truth, you then focus on your corporate job, you that has consequences.
Yes.
But I think there's a way to separate disruption and creating an alternate reality in terms of creation and forms of art versus a situation that directly impacts people negatively. So creating something beautiful, as before we started this, speaking about art that actually resonates with masses and masses of people, or something that is universally accepted and beautiful to so many people, that creation cannot be destructive at the same time.
Okay.
But
who's to say? Because you understand 50% of the people, 50% of the world doesn't want to see the Sistine Chapel and the Sistine Chapel.
yeah, for reasons because of the art, or for reasons beyond the actual
It could be both.
creation.
Could be both.
Or some people don't, or some people choose not to accept brilliance.
It could be. I mean,
Some people.
So as an example, like the Sistine Chapel is like it's biblical, right?
Yes.
So if you're not Christian, by definition, you would not want to reject it, and that's the problem with taking the model of there are hard truths, and then also the model of saying that you can lie to yourself, because the definition of that is so subjective that it's ridiculous. Like if I go and act on the assumption that I'm a world famous rapper, there is consequences. The difference is that, can I make that reality like true? And the answer is we don't know. The other reality, that which is more practical and reality substantiates, like, okay, cool, I'm going to be the best employee at the corporate company that I'm at. The only difference is that you have a society or a group of people around you that endorse you doing the corporate thing than you doing the other thing. If you go to your mom and be like, "Oh, mom, like I was like I had this when I was kids, like, mom, I want to be a rapper." She's like, "Well, what does that mean? How do you like what is the given career track path to becoming a rapper?" And it's like, there is none. You got to make it up. Well, there's consequences of doing that. There is there's actual negative consequences, and the differences on whether or not it was a good decision is the way that it pans out. So if I become a rapper, like even when you were 18 and you're getting all these great awards and RCL, like people were like, you're like, okay, cool, I want to be an investment banker. That was in actuality, that's a lie, right? It's a potential of what can happen. I want to be an investment banker. So you directed everything you had to do that. So there are other people who said the same thing as you but never got there. What's the difference? Who lied? Who told the truth? It's like, that's why I don't like, when I read that thing, I didn't like it, because it's you can go crazy. Because in my opinion, I look at schizophrenic people as people whereby they see a version of truth that is not externally validated. That's all it is. And if you keep taking the process of saying that, okay, cool, I'm going to start doing things that I believe in, and I'm the only reference point for whether or not it's believable, or that's a problem. That's a huge, huge problem. And so, like, part of people creating great things in our world is, I think, like an element of like the being of like they're going so far against the grain that people just look at them and be like, that's crazy. And it's only not crazy because they did it. Like, Steve Jobs isn't crazy. Why? Because he made Apple. But there's another guy who said he was going to create the next big fucking thing, but didn't. And there were negative consequences associated with him failing. But does that actually make him a failure or him a crazy person? No, it just makes Steve Jobs a person that succeeded as a consequence of whatever the macro structures were that governed who he was. Make sense?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think, I mean, you take a Steve Jobs. He overall added value.
Yes.
Overall added value.
Yeah.
You take someone with a mental illness that lies to themselves, schizophrenia, for example, or bipolar disorder, and you make someone aware that they have this disorder.
Yeah.
And they deny it. Whatever your 5 steps of
deny, whatever. Yeah.
So you deny it. So phase 1, you lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Until you grow and assess and evaluate yourself.
Yeah.
You will continue lying to yourself, and the consequences of that is so detrimental to others.
Yeah.
Your sibling now has to look out for you.
Yeah.
Your parents now are worried about you.
Yeah.
Your friends are worried about you because you are just you are not being honest with yourself that you have an issue.
But it's only that way because you failed. if you succeeded, it's like the whole statement, fake it till you make it.
Yeah. So I think which is what I said before, not on this recording, is that there's almost a separate scenario or separate scenarios of lying to yourself. One is achieving something.
Yes.
You lie to yourself and you say, I am an investment banker, or I want to become an investment banker. I want to become a rapper. You lie to yourself, you convince yourself, and you, in the process, become this person who must become that person.
Yes.
And you tick the box and you get it, and it's done, it's fine.
Yes.
Another person tries that and they don't become that person. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are lying to themselves. They are maybe not the person they need to be in that current moment.
Yes, to get what
to actually get there. And that's a growth trajectory that takes internal work.
Yeah.
That takes research and whatever it may be. Separate from that is lying to yourself where it has an impact on others. And in particular, a negative impact. So if you were doing something continuously that was detrimental to others, and you continued to lie to yourself after it was brought to your attention that this is a problem, assume a red flag.
Can I stop you there? So in that second scenario that you mentioned, where you are the entity that you're talking about, you're not in the journey in your growth trajectory to get to where you need to be. So what happens if there were negative consequences associated with you trying to get there? So your mom had to pay for you to go to varsity to get a degree, and she had to work 2 jobs and all of those things. And it's like there are actually negative consequences for you not getting there. It's the same scenario as the last scenario you had. You're just being subjective on what's sensical.
I think it is less detrimental, because you going through that process and that scenario puts you in a position to do positive things and to have a positive impact.
Yeah.
Okay. So that ticks that box. On the other side of the spectrum, it is so negative to other people that you actually cause more distress than progress and growth. It doesn't matter if you failed 5 years.
Yeah.
If you believe it in yourself, you push on and you continue.
I get where you're going. Like it's like, if someone believes they can, like, if there's someone that believes that, like, them being the world's greatest chain smoker of hub, like, will lead to their family being uber successful and rich, and like that's his reality, and and he goes in and just like every day he's smoking it, and that's got negative consequences. He'll have lung cancer in 5 years, whatever the case may be. Like I get what you mean. I get what you mean. The only issue that I take with that is that it is an argument. It's a line of rationale, right? If I use your model, it's a line of rationale that if you are not sophisticated enough, and I've always said this, like, I always feel that people who are knowledgeable and conservative are the most formidable people you'll ever meet. Because they can dissociate from things that are creative and from things that are like fundamental.
What do you mean by conservative?
Conservative people are like people that on the like right-wing people, like people that believe in reality, believe in being practical. You know, like there's a way to do things. Like I get that. Like there's like if you're smart and conservative, you'll always be formidable because you're dealing with the world in a way that's difficult, but it's pragmatic. But if you don't have your viewpoint, is the only flaw I can see in it is that, like, I can't give that person their way of looking at the world to someone who's not as intelligent as you are, because they'll use that model improperly because they don't see the fallacies in being a chain smoker. They don't have all the knowledge associated with knowing that being the biggest chain smoker in the world leads to ruin.
Yeah, it actually has more negative consequences than positive.
They don't know that.
Yeah.
So
they don't know that, but there may be a scenario where it's pointed out to them more than once.
It could be, but you also got to realize using your model at the same time means that you could be surrounded by people that are shitty people that are promoting you to do something that's bad, but because you're using them to validate what you're doing, it's going to lead you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I always say, and I always believe that you have a choice. And many times you make repeated unconscious choices
Yeah.
until such point that you start making conscious choices.
Yes.
Because you will go so far down the wrong path, or not wrong path. You will go so far down a path that is detrimental not only to yourself but others, that you get a wake up call and you are like, something must change.
Okay, so using your model, right? What happens if you're born in a family full of criminals? And the only external validation you get, the only positive external validation you get is practically negative. How do you filter that?
I think, you naturally are taken to a place that is so far and so dark that you will be forced to start questioning these things. And for me, it's separate from creation. So when you're creating art and you're creating something universal and big and beautiful, by all means, lie to yourself and create and be a disruptor. So for me, being creative and being a disruptor and lying to yourself to create something, but it's not actually lying to yourself because you actually believe in it.
Yeah, you create. Yeah,
you actually believe in it, so you're not lying to yourself. The other side of the spectrum, lying to yourself, that is actually detrimental to your well-being, to your family's well-being, to those around you's well-being. For me, that's different. So the path of creation, and let's say you have an idea and an ideal and you fail 5 years in a row, but you believe in it. That's not lying to yourself. That is believing in something and believing in something that's bigger than you, which most people aspire to. And I think it's a fascinating thing. Lying to yourself where it's detrimental to others to such a point that you are actually causing a disservice not only to yourself but to those around you. That's the concept and the topic of lying to yourself, where people are making you aware that, look, you may have this mental illness. Are you open to seeking help? Are you open to exploring healthy avenues of dealing with your stress or conflict or internal conflict? And you continue to deny it and you say, no, I don't have a problem. Like an alcoholic. You're drinking, you've got a bottle in your desk drawer, you're drinking at work, you're escaping to your car, you're having a shot. You are an alcoholic and you're causing distress and discomfort to those around you, and you are causing distress and discomfort to yourself. People make you aware of it, and you continue to lie to yourself and say, I don't have a problem. I only drink twice a day.
Or whatever.
At 10 a.m. and at 10 p.m. During work hours. I mean, clearly any rational person can say that's a problem, but what is rational? I mean, that's another topic.
But that's the question that you're essentially asking. Is that, so if I take the same example you're using, and I put myself in a family that rewards crime, they reinforce me for doing bad things. And in my mind, I want to be a good person. And I keep acting in accordance with what they are saying. I'm going to end up being a person that does bad things because the external validation isn't proper. So the element of creation, and I get your point, your element of creation, the problem with creation, fundamentally, you're creating a reality that is not congruent with what you know. And you're doing it because you believe.
But you are creating a reality that is congruent with what you are. So,
but it's at the cost of everyone else. So inherently, it's going to be at a cost of everyone else. So they're always going to tell you that you shouldn't be doing this.
Yes. But I think the cost to everyone else is different to a detrimental cost.
It's not, because you can validate it. That's the key difference. So if you, as an example, right, let's say you say, I want to move to San Francisco. There's a cost associated that your family has to bear, that you are no longer in the country. There's no longer that support of you share being around. Your mom's gonna miss you. All those things. It's a negative costs. You've validated in your mind that it's probably a net positive for you to get there, because, as an example, Aish might have children and they have an outlet to go to San Francisco or start a life in the US, etc., etc. You are the only entity that has that viewpoint. So, in your mind, is that a bad decision?
No, it's not a bad decision.
Okay, but stop right there. But in everyone else's mind, it is a bad decision. The only reason why you're using the metric that it's good is because you are the entity that validates that point.
Yes, but I think that decision doesn't have any direct detrimental consequences to others.
It does.
As opposed to lying to yourself. So missing someone, you get to a point where emotional intelligence comes into play, and you say, okay, you're going to miss this person, but you have to have the emotional intelligence to process and unpack this new scenario.
Yeah.
So for me, that's different to lying to yourself, having a mental illness, and not taking ownership when given the platform to take ownership.
Yeah, so who's the entity that decides that you have a mental illness?
It will hopefully be brought to your attention. You will hopefully realize when you turn 35 that you can't be doing the same thing. That you can't be stuck in the same pattern. And, it as difficult as it is, if it is brought to your attention, you need to somehow...
So here's the problem with your pattern, right? Your pattern basically your pattern says that if you are not productive, anyone can tell you that you have a mental illness and you have to believe them because externally they've said so. My model is saying that if I'm productive, I can do whatever I want and nobody can tell me anything because I'm productive.
No, but if it's to the detrimental to others...
Doesn't matter because I'm the entity...
Then you are not productive.
It doesn't matter because I'm the entity that validates the productivity.
If you are detrimental to others, you are not actually creating.
It doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to say, is that if I'm the entity that decides what productivity is, by definition, it doesn't matter what you say. Because if I use your model, I subject myself to everyone else's opinions. And if they tell me at any given point in time that what I'm doing is nonsensical and I have a mental disease, I am the problem. And they have that power at any given time. So you can have a bunch of people who randomly decide, we want T-shirt to go down. We're now just going to tell him that he's got a problem. He's got a problem. Huge problem. Massive problem. Oh yeah, we have to tell him this. And they tell you this. And because you've never believed in yourself, you all of a sudden say, well, yeah, I've got a problem. They've told me that I have a problem, so I must have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to look at your track record.
But that's what I'm saying.
And if you have no track record and you are doing things that are detrimental to yourself and others, it is most likely that you may have a problem.
But again, who's the entity that decides what is detrimental?
You as an individual have the choice. You can have 100,000 people tell you, you're wrong. But until you take ownership and believe and convince and do the work, it doesn't actually matter because, I mean, you can only make the choice.
Okay, but what happens if you're productive?
Productive with no track record, or
productive with a track record, and then all of a sudden people are like, you crazy, bro. You're nuts. You're loco, bro. You've gone off the rails, bro. You've done too much. Are you crazy?
So I think there's a fine line there.
But that's the problem with your model.
Where it is detrimental to yourself and to others.
It's not. That's the problem. Is that I don't want the moment my psyche gets dictated by your viewpoint of it, and I take that in. I'm fucked. I'm fucked.
Then you must go down by yourself.
It's like think about Tiger Woods.
Sorry. Before we move to Tiger Woods, that's the importance of being surrounded by people that have your best interests at heart. You know, and one of the key ways to test that is when you tell somebody good news. And if they're not clapping for you, you already know.
Yeah.
So as you associate with people that are going to clap for you, they are going to point out things to you that you should consider. Nobody's saying you must do this, you must do that. They're saying, have you thought about this? And that's what comes from being a good friend and a good leader, is being able to
take in feedback. And I get that.
To take feedback and to grow from it, and also to give feedback.
Yeah, I get that.
So nobody's saying you are going off the rails, don't do this. People are saying, and this is a hypothetical scenario, that have you considered this, or have you considered what this is doing to others? And you have the choice at the end of the day to
say yes,
to fix or to say yes or no. So
it's,
you always have control, and it's always in your power.
I think this is the interesting thing, and this is why I believe my viewpoint. I would rather work off my model, because if you look at someone like Tiger Woods, right? The guy was hyper productive, massively productive. Part of his productivity entailed that he had to sleep with a lot of women. That's just the way he created his model, for whatever reason, right? And I love Tiger Woods, my idol. So now everyone finds out this guy sleeps with everyone. He fucks anything.
He has a problem.
Yeah. They've defined that.
No, he has a problem.
No.
He is admitted he has a problem.
Oh yeah, he has
worked, and he's
gone down. So looking at it from my perspective, right? So he's been hyper productive. He's done all the stuff, and I agree. Like, okay, cool. Maybe it was a problem. Maybe it wasn't. But who is to decide? So everyone else decided that he has a problem. So what happens if someone else does that, but he jerks off 4 times a day? Does he have a problem? He's hyper productive, super productive. He's not hurting anyone.
No, he doesn't have a problem, because part of that is your natural being and your natural psyche to create and procreate.
Yes.
And I mean, scientifically, it is a reliever of stress. So what you do with it, and how and why you feel guilty about it, or
okay, so then why is it shameful that Tiger Woods, or why was it a problem that Tiger Woods slept with a shit ton of women?
Because one is a solo scenario. You've got nothing better to do with your life. And the other one actually has impacting and meaningful implications that involve
on whose life?
Another living entity.
Everyone, his life was hunky-dory. His kids were, this guy was successful.
All past tense, right? All the words you're choosing are all past
but
tense.
It's all past tense, because everyone said, oh yeah, no, you've gone off the rails, bud. But you must understand, during the period where he was doing all that stuff and winning all these records, people were like, oh, he's the greatest of all time. Oh, he's the best thing since last.
Until they found out.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
The damage that it was causing.
Yeah, no, there was no damage. That's the thing.
There was damage on others.
There was no damage.
And there was psychological damage on him.
Maybe one, like the only person I could really understand that had a problem with his wife. That's it. If his wife knew that, and I probably have a sense that that's unfair. But like, if his wife knew that this guy sleeps a lot, the only thing she's actually ashamed of is that now it's public. That's actually the only.
No, I disagree.
Yeah, you disagree. I'm trying to paint you a scenario whereby, like, imagine a scenario where she knew that this guy, he's on the road half the time. This guy's the most successful athlete of all time. There's a high chance he's probably having sex. He's Tiger Woods, bro. It's got high chance. And then it's like, cool, allow this behavior. Why? Because we've got a $60 million house, kids living well, all that stuff. Great. He's winning all the majors, fucking pumping it, bro. Out of nowhere.
I mean, all credit to her for her, voicing her opinion and making sure people know that it wasn't only about that for her.
No, she never said shit, by the way.
No, she did.
Google it. She never said shit. Ellen Oregon is famous for not talking to the media. She never said shit.
Is it not? And I may be mistaken. Is it not in his? What's the latest?
He did a statement. So he did a statement. You could see he was he was like coerced by his sponsors and everyone else. They were like, you need to say this so that you can save face. It was just like, it's rehearsed, bro. His mom was there, his wife was there, his children was like, I need to make an apology to the world because XYZ, this is what I did, da 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 da. It's a problem, I'm seeking help, all that stuff. The problem I have with that, not even a problem. Look at it from his perspective. That behavior was everyone was like, bro, this is fine.
This is fine.
Everyone was, this is fine, bro. You are winning. Everyone has cash. Everyone is happy. Do what you need to do. Continue this trend. Thanks. He did that.
I don't know, eh? When your biggest sponsors want to dissociate from you,
because
you
they
must be doing something wrong.
Because they found out. Because all of a sudden it's public. It's not like they didn't. Bro, Mark Weinberg, yeah. It's not, bro. This guy's agent. Guy books his fucking hotel. He booked the flights for the Huns to get there. It's like, there was a story about, I can't remember who the Hun was, but she went to like the Australian Open. And like, they knew, like, bro, they gave her like, yeah, he's staying under this alias. This is like, she had a room that was like adjacent to his, like, as to not to cause, yeah, it's Rachel Uchitel. It's like, not to cause suspicion. Like, there were people in his team that knew. It wasn't just him saying that I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, you look at someone like Lance Armstrong, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
There's no way that people in his team did not know.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all in it together.
So, yeah. So then how do you validate at some point? The thing that you are doing, everyone is saying, oh, that's fine. Just keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to your fine line of lying to yourself.
But
a Lance Armstrong wins
one Tour de France. Yeah, 7. After the 6th one, you're like, bro, he needs to do it.
Exactly. So you continue to lie to yourself at the detriment to others.
It's not, but that's the thing. In your reality, it's not at detriment. In your current reality, as you're experiencing it, it's not at detriment.
Yes, which is psychologically flawed. And you're psychologically disturbed.
It can't
because you're believing a reality that
it's not false. It's working.
No, how's it working?
It's the guy won 7 Tour de France, and you're telling me it didn't work.
By cheating.
But you're telling me in that process that it wasn't working.
But he cheated. That's not working.
It's working.
We can all go and do that, and we can all go and train and do those things and do blood transfusions.
So here's the only difference is that he got caught. That's it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you go to bed and you wake up with your own consciousness, and someday you wake up and you're like, what have I done?
No ways. No, because there are people, gang people. You sure?
No, definitely. It's the same with moving money across the world and hiding and creating separate vehicles that hide cash. And what type of person do you want to be?
Bro, people go to bed cozy, bro. People go to bed in the $60 million house, cozy, bro.
Yeah. Cozy. So, I mean, what type of person do you want to be?
Hey, bro, I'll be a winner. And what reality has told us, at least to some degree, is that winners may need a little bit of help. It's like, are they cheating? It's like, it's not cheating if they don't find out.
No, you will get found out at some point. It's like it is an inevitable by nature that you will be found out.
That's a strong word.
So
that's a very strong word.
Whether you wake up one day and you just can't live with yourself, then you lean towards external things. You lean towards drugs. Then you OD. Then you lean towards, or you think you are so great, but in reality, you're actually not great.
I think it's hard. I think it's a hard, because at the end of the day, you're the only entity that
you need to be so conscious and so aware of yourself and your surroundings. That is a complete human being. Someone who is lying to themselves is inherently flawed.
But that's the thing. Like, Tiger Woods wasn't seeing the behavior he was doing as wrong.
Until he saw that it was wrong.
No, until everyone else said it was wrong.
Because he convinced himself that it was right.
No, it wasn't. It's like, that's what I'm trying to say, is that like he didn't even convince himself it was right. He just did it and kept on doing it, and everything was fine. Like, dick, bro, if you do something for it. Like, imagine someone comes up to you, right? Out of nowhere, tells you that you studying is a problem. Massive problem. It's fucking ruining everyone's life. It's a problem. It's like, can you stop it? It's like, fucking kill it. Stop it. You are in the wrong. You fucked everyone's life because you studied so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think very different points. I don't think they can be compared with
because it's a behavior that has been not only it's been rewarded. That's the same thing for them. Like, that's what I'm trying to make you understand, is that, like, there are people that do things that it gets validated in their life, and they keep on doing it, and they don't see it as wrong because it keeps getting validated. And then out of nowhere, someone says it's wrong.
I think deep down, this person who is doing these things that are wrong, and what is moral and what is not moral can go back many, many ages. One knows deep down, deep down when it's wrong.
That's a very subjective metric.
No, it is subjective. It is subjective, but you take a man and you stab him in the neck and you ask yourself, is it wrong? You take a person and you abuse them physically, you ask yourself, is it wrong? You take a person and you abuse them emotionally and you ask yourself, is it wrong? You take a chicken and I should have started by saying I'm vegan. No, that should have been my punchline. But you take a living being and you cull it and you ask yourself, is it wrong? You take a dog and you cull it and you ask yourself, is it wrong?
Yeah.
What type of human being do you want to be?
Yeah, that's the question. Do you want to be so
as much success as toxicity
that's associated
can
with
give you,
yes.
And you can stay in your lane and you can
win
train,
it all and win it all.
You can win it all. You
yeah.
can win it all for 7 years and for 7 trophies, and then you wake up one day, and you either become aware of it or it gets pointed out to you that.
Yes. You need to stop it.
There may be a problem.
Yes.
There may be a problem. You can carry on. We can strip your sponsorship. We're not telling you not to. You are a free human being in the United States.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do. We can make you aware that this is a problem, and we're going to strip your sponsorship.
Yeah.
You can continue. You're the greatest golfer of all time, and you can go and play, and you can play well.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have our logo on your shirt. So go play. You come to a realization that you actually need the support of others. You need a community. You need the people around you. And you start questioning yourself as an individual. What type of leader do you want to be for every young black child out there?
Yeah, man.
Do you want to be that guy or do you want to be that guy?
Bro, I get you. You're obviously going to concede to you're going to concede to the masses. And that's by definition because it keeps you cozy. But you got to also understand that the actions before, it's like, by the fact that if you can change your behavior and be accepted means that they're actually semi-condoning the actions that you've done before. That's the scary part.
I think they're giving you a chance. And because you are so great, they are saying, you've done this.
Yes, you've done this. Even though you did it improperly, we're going to give you a chance. So somewhat, we're actually saying that it's okay to do the wrong thing so long as you concede to some kind of external validation. And that for me is like, that's flawed.
So what about the scenario where a Tiger Woods continued to do that?
There could have been a scenario where that happened.
Charlie Woods?
Yeah, his son.
Would there be a Charlie Woods?
Do you understand? No, he was born when that happened. So the question...
No, not would there be him living.
Oh, yeah.
Would
he be what he
would
is
there be
now?
excellence?
Okay, so here's the question.
Would there be black excellence?
Here's the real question. What is to say that he's not doing it now?
No, fair point, and that goes back to him as a human being, as a professional sports person, as a leader,
as a winner,
no,
as a winner.
If
there's some dark undertones. Winner.
If he woke up at 5 a.m. and he hit balls for 8 hours,
getting his dick sucked, but at the end of the day, he's a winner.
That's a winner, not a winner.
He's a winner.
That's a winner, not a winner.
He's winning all. Bro, I realized our society doesn't care so long as you get the trophy, bro. If you get the trophy, they'll be like, fine.
Nah, you find the price, you pay it,
Yes.
and you must be fully aware and conscious of the consequences.
Yeah, if you
because
not- but-
everything has
Yeah, so now you
has a
must,
consequence.
yeah, it does. But now you must be aware of everything that you're doing. That's just heavy.
He would be even more ultimate, being conscious
Oh yeah,
and
fully.
a super athlete.
Fully. But at the end of the day, he was. To understand, we watched 15 years of elite golf while this guy was sleeping at 4 a.m. fucking broads. Whole time, no one knew, but we were like, yo, this guy is a deep athleticism. Does that take away from the fact that he's the greatest golfer of all time?
It does.
Doesn't.
It does.
Does not.
It takes away who he is as a leader.
No ways. He still is what he is. That's the thing about people that don't understand about winners is that like it's dark. It's not. Even you said this the other day. You were like, bro, I think I need to bring some of the toxicity I had, just so that I can finish. I can be more clinical.
Yes, but not to the detriment of other people.
Yeah. It's because
To shape and mold a person as a leader is different to being detrimental to the people closest to you.
can you see how you're being subjective with that though? You're the
I pick my poison.
Yes, but
I pick my poison.
That's the thing.
But I make sure I'm very conscious
Of
in the words I choose and the choices I make.
But you're still the entity that's choosing that. And if someone comes up to you later and says, "Hey, bro, you're really not pleasant in the office, and that's a problem," and it's all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to take a step," even though that's what's made you who you are, and that's why you've been crushing shit. Oh, that's a problem. It's a problem with mental. That's the problem I have at the moment with things that are coming from the political left spectrum of things like, and I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm not like, don't get me twisted. Things like mental health and things like the LGBTQ community. Like, you don't touch that with a stick. But like, it is, for me, like Ben Shapiro used a great example the other day. Some lady in the crowd was arguing his points or his viewpoints on it. And he asked him a fundamental question. He was like, how old are you? And she was like, she's 22 or whatever the age was. And then his rebuttal was like, all right, cool. Now be 67. She's like, what? He's like, yeah, be 67. She's like, I can't be 67. It's like, so to some degree, you understand that there's a part of you that is embedded in reality and that you can't change it. So why should I accept you now changing your sex randomly? And that I have to now accommodate everything that we've done before to that. I don't want to get into the discussion about that, but like, that is the problem I have with other people telling me how I should live my life when they've said it's been fine the way that I've lived it, and I got good results from doing it. Look, I think I'm aware as the next guy, as the most aware as the next guy, but there's going to be things that I miss. By nature, going to happen, but I can't take into consideration everything. And when it gets highlighted to me, bitch, be shot in the face for it.
No, that's fair. And let's say you are made aware of it. You're made aware of these things that you may be blindsided to. Would that make you more ultimate?
No, it doesn't. It just
wouldn't.
It doesn't. It just makes you more susceptible to. It makes you more susceptible to change.
For me, if someone were to point out certain things to me that were detrimental to others, I would consider, I would evaluate, I would assess, and I mean, most likely than not, it would probably make me
change
better. It would probably make me better, and I always strive for growth.
Yeah. So I was watching a video with a documentary on Seve Ballesteros, and so Seve Ballesteros was this golfer that like he played all by natural feel. Like he learned the game by himself, never had a coach, became like top golfer in the world during, I think it was the 70s or the 80s. One of the greats, like by no stretch of the imagination. And He played his worst golf when he got a coach. When he started getting coaches, when he started getting external validation, when they started saying that, like, actually the way that you do things is not good. It's like, that's a problem. Yeah, you're as you get through the downswing, there's a weird thing that you do, and you need to change that and think of that. And I just think, at least, there is when you lose that sense of self-belief that you have in yourself that has made you what you are, no matter how wrong it is, especially if it's wrong in a way that's not detrimental to anyone. And that's the word you keep using. It's not detrimental to anyone, right? You got to stick with it. So even if someone highlights that it may be a fallacy that you have, but even in your viewpoint, you're like, it's not hurting anyone. I'm just going to keep doing it. That's the moment I take that if the moment I outsource that sanity to someone, I'm going to pay. Things can go wrong. It can go so wrong very quickly. And I get why it's so difficult for professional athletes to make a concession that, like, oh yeah, the way I was doing things was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, sleeping with 100 women and training for 18 hours a day are two different things.
What do you mean? Because that's what Tiger did. Trained for like 16 hours a day and fucked broads for another 2 hours. Then went to bed for like 4 hours.
Yeah. So if his model was so right, why haven't you tried it?
That's because it's his model. It's his model.
So what's your model?
It's a different model. I'm still trying to figure out my model, but I think people in our day and age are very concerned about how things should look like, as opposed to what things should do. Like we're so concerned. Like the old God was very good at outcome. Like they don't care about they don't care about the how. They're like, did we win? It's like, yes. All right, cool, on to the next. We are like so, as a society, are just so concerned and consumed about like, oh no, but we need to take every single person's feelings into account, and oh no, we missed this and that. And I think it's just I think it makes us weak to some degree. It makes weak's a bad word. Weak's a bad word. It makes us less effective. Yeah, it makes us less. What's your model?
Kendall Jenner. If you want to talk about models, that's my model.
Man. All right.
No, my model is a continuous and flexible journey. I think, if I were to be stuck in my ways from 5-10 years ago, I would be in a very different and darker place. I always go back to an analogy of stepping into a river.
Yeah.
It's never the same river, and it's never the same man. And that keeps me learning, it keeps me growing, it keeps me stretching. It helps me to be more conscious. It helps me to be more aware of my actions. It helps me to process others' actions as well. So you're constantly absorbing this information and you're extracting what resonates with you, and what doesn't resonate with me almost automatically gets discarded. So my model is also a work in progress. It'll never be perfect, I don't think, ever in my lifetime, but it is one I would like to think that it is of continuous growth and continuous stretching and making sure that others around me are better off. You want to leave a place better off when you leave it than when you entered it. And also to make sure that those who are still trying to find their way have a clearer path without being a dictator.
Yeah.
So it's more pointing out the lights or the paths and saying, these are there are 10 paths to get to where you want to go to. I've gone along 3 of them. One of them works, given your situation. And that comes from also being perceptive. Being able to perceive a person and a scenario and a situation and saying, you've got these 10 paths. Perhaps focus on these 3. And at the end of the day, I mean, you choose. So, you want to leave a place better off when you leave it. And I think the reality for me is that we always leave a place, whether it's a corporate or a relationship or a situation or scenario. It's constantly evolving and moving. And one of my biggest mistakes is probably staying stagnant when everything moves. There is science that has proven that the universe is expanding, continuously expanding. You look at a star through a telescope and it's getting further and further away from you. So they're concluding that the universe is expanding. And for you to stay in the same position when everything around you is moving forward, for me, that was one of my biggest mistakes and one of my biggest realizations, I think, is to keep growing and moving, because, being stuck in a way can cause you, it can set you back. It can set you back too many years. So, unfortunately, nobody pointed it out to me. It's something I had to dig deep for and dig deep with and sit with myself and process and analyze and figure out the triggers. And one of the key things was staying the same when everything is growing and
it's
expanding.
not a benefit. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do. Eh?
So that's my work in progress model.
It's a very difficult thing to do. Like, the world is, I think the world at the moment, I think it's going to be interesting to see you age, because a lot of what you're saying really hinges on the fact that you believe, at least to some degree, that you are better than, not better, that because you've traveled roads, you have more experience, and so people should listen to you because of that. And that's a typical argument CEOs use. It's like, listen to me because I've been here, I've seen all the avenues. And one of the things about this new generations is that they don't like listening. They like being disruptive and not listening to the old guard and saying that, like, oh yeah, we'll do this. That was like, no, we want to do things we want to do things in a way that you haven't even thought about, that you've never even conceptualized. And we want to do it that way because we can. And I think it's difficult. I think you definitely, like I said this earlier today, you'd probably make a great CEO or great president. Because, like, president of a company, because you have that instantiated in you.
I thought you meant president of a country. I was going to be like, let's set up that separate financing vehicle and flow some funds in there.
Let's set up a SPAC, bro. No, yeah, like I like, because you have it that's intuitively in you. You can see, you can calculate what people's desires are, where they should actually want to go. And I think, like, a lot of the younger generation they're very disassociated from reality, and I blame that a lot on technology. Things like TikTok have made 12-year-old kids really famous and rich, like, in a fairly short period of time, and they believe that that's the way the world works. And it's unfortunate because they'll have to learn that the hard way. But back to the point, I think, yeah, you'll definitely do well in those things, but the problem is that you can't know it all. There's going to be blind sides, and I think the new generation is just throwing so many. I mean, you can see that. Yeah, you can see that in technology, the things that they're building and inventing. It's just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think instant gratification is one of the biggest detriments to our psyche and the way we are built. It's important to switch off. Our attention spans are so short that there are even stats for a TikTok, for example,
Yeah.
that shows you, has someone actually watched the video to the end?
Oh wow, yeah.
And more often than not, they don't.
Yeah.
If you're not captured within the first 5 seconds,
They're gone.
You on to the next video.
It's such a weird thing, man. Like I think that whole instant gratification thing is changing. It's warping our brains because if I I look at myself, right? When I look at the world, it's been built on hard labor, on like the premise that like good things take time. Like you want to have a career in finance, you got to work for like 10 years. You want to do anything of worthwhile value, you're probably going to have to dedicate a lot of time and energy to it. And then they're saying like, nah, we don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons. There is an argument that we are in the biggest bubble of all things of all time.
And that's just going to keep... Yeah. They're going to say that in 20 years. Watch, they're going to say, like, this is the biggest of the bubbles.
No, they may until you face the music, right? And it cannot be predicted, which makes it so challenging. But, those that have been in an industry for such a long time, not to say that the way of thinking is correct, but you inherently have more knowledge and you piece puzzles together quicker. So it goes back to instant gratification. You want to build a career in finance, and you've studied for 3 years, and you think you understand markets and you understand how things move. And you can trade one share, and you think you've made it.
You are now Warren Buffett
because you have this instant gratification, and you wake up the next morning and then you're down 69%.
It's so funny. But the our generation, I think as I age, I understand that a lot better because I had the same thinking when I was young, or similar thinking. I thought everything had to happen now. I mean, I'm only 30 now, and I'm just like, oh, okay. You actually have to dedicate specific time to things.
That's interesting because we almost have the opposite experience. I am in a space where I want instant gratification. Ooh. I feel like things need to be rushed. And I'm slowly learning that you need to be patient. You need to, with everything going around you that is so instant, Uber Eats, Uber.
But I would say you're the antithesis of that because, I mean, like, everything you have, like the degree didn't take you a year. It took you 7, like, it was a while.
If you unpack this PhD process, one of the biggest mistakes I made was to want to smash out a piece of work or a section as quick as possible. But it doesn't work like that. You need to be patient. You need to be researching and reading and formulating and conceptualizing an idea before it even hits the page, which is very separate to
the thinking
and the type of work that you do in other spaces.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, for me personally, slowing down, appreciating the process is important.
I think you've always been a person that slows down. I just think that, and I'll be the first person to put my hand up that I've been susceptible to the world, the way the world works now. Like, it's so easy, man. Like, you want a quick dopamine fix, just like, go on Instagram, like, real quick. Like, you can have like women, like Jordan Peterson was saying, this phenomenon, like, you understand, like, we have access to more breasts than our parents have ever seen in their whole lives. And it's just like in our pocket. It's like, and we can have, that's why I think that's why our society has like these ridiculous standards of beauty. Because you got Instagram, you're just sitting there and you're like, oh my God, my girlfriend used to look like that. And all of that stuff is just detrimental to our society in the long term. I mean, like, divorce rates are going up. Men are fighting depression a hell of a lot earlier because they're fighting like health problems with their penis because they've just been jerking off too much, or they've got too much of that stimulation. Like, it's we're in a period now where I think the value you derive from your life is going to be more dictated by how good you are at putting things off, or like how good you are at like sense of like filtering out the technology as opposed to using it. Because I can see it's like Peter Thiel's analogy that he used. Like he has this concept that things will just infinitely get better, right? And that technology will just like it's just gonna get more. There's just like more and more and more. It's like the singularity point. Like it's just gonna be more, better, greater, the bestest all the time. And that's how American thinks. And I just think the more and more I see that, the more I'm dissuaded from that perspective. That it's actually going to be done by taking a little bit of a backseat, taking a step back, and being like, you know what, maybe let me use Instagram like this as opposed to how everyone else is using it. Because yeah, there's just too much that we're exposed to on a day to day basis, man. So much food, woman, work. I mean, I was having this conversation with this girl that was a management consultant, and I was like, you don't realize how the workplace is actually creating workers that keep the lower down the ring you are, the more complex your work is. So it's like, I mean, the stuff junior employees are now doing is like really fucking high tech. Like it's really like holy shit, that's loaded. Um, and even my job, it's got a shit ton of it's got a shit ton of complexity. And it's almost like it's okay for you to understand what all these applications are that have to be used. They need to be used a certain way, understanding the corporate policy, understanding the hierarchy, how that all leads to strategy. And it's like, holy crap, man, that's so much to take.
Mm. Is it so much to take because there's so much to take elsewhere?
I think it's a bit of both, eh?
So you're waking up in the morning, assuming your routine is you're on your phone.
Yeah.
You're immediately seeing things you didn't ask to see.
It's just thrown at you.
It's on your feed. It's thrown at you, and then you're facing your work at 8 a.m. And then that's also thrown at you. So it's almost, are you like you say, and I think you're spot on that one may be consuming too much too quickly, and it is important
to take a
and
step
it
back.
may be it may be that the winning strategy and scenario is that you actually take a step back and you cut down or you switch off.
Yeah, so my dad, like, he highlighted this to me when I drove him to the hospital, getting like a checkup. And so I was driving, I had the GPS on, I had music on, and I was having a conversation with him. And he looked at me and he was like, yo, you guys are heavy. Like, you're doing so many processes and you're doing all of them so seamlessly. Where it's like, I could probably only focus on one, maybe two things max. And it's like, you're changing the song on your, you're changing the song in the car. You're chatting to me. This thing is telling you where to go and you're dealing with oncoming traffic. It's like the generation before didn't have to do that. And it's like, I think the complexity in our lives is a hell of a lot higher. And I think that's why people are talking about mental health so much, is because there is actually a mental load that we have as a consequence. And so most of the time it's actually trying to find, that's why people have to go on leave, right? And most of the time leave is actually you like going, like taking like complexity out of, like, you just want to beach with not, like, the most, when people are on break, they always say one thing: I just want to put my phone away. Because your phone is all the complexity into this one little simple thing that's in your pocket. Anyone can reach you. They can bring really complex topics to your attention like that. It's like there's a problem in the office and it's a huge problem. It's massive, and it's your brain's gonna all your brain wants is to just say stop. Do nothing. Do nothing for a week, please, because I do so much already. And I think I genuinely believe and the thing is, like the more as evolution goes, like the next generation has to deal with more and more complexity because there's more and more we're creating. We're creating whatever the new thing is, crypto, like blockchain and whatever. It's like that is all just loaded onto more and more complexity, and it's just like, man, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. If you ever get the chance to go to the farms, talk to a farmer, he's look at you like you're crazy when you're talking about like tell him what it is, like what you like. Have you tried to explain your day job to someone, like to an old person?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think it also affects how present you are in a situation. You know, you're driving with your dad. Your mind is on 3 or 4 other things. What he's saying to you, you are responding, but you know, how present are you actually? Which impacts your relationships. You know, it impacts your life experience as well. Because you know, the ability to sit here in this room and actually be present and listen to what someone else is saying and to ask questions, genuine questions, as opposed to getting to a solution, which is something which I personally have struggled with over time. Is
like, how present are you right now? Like, is your brain on a problem at work, or are you like here?
I'm definitely not 100% here. There is so much. There is so much, you know. But I think, you know, to be able to be completely present, I think is a game changer, and that, you know, that stems from so many things. And you know, I think being in environments, both of us, where you are problem solving, and from a young age you are playing provincial chess, you are coming up with a solution, and you're really good at it, and you are told you're really good at it, and you get acknowledged because now you're playing for your province and you're solving problems. You naturally listen to somebody, but you're already
trying to
5 to 7 moves ahead, waiting for this conversation, not this conversation, waiting for your conversation with somebody to get to a conclusion, because you're like, I already know what I think you should do. But sometimes, you know, the key and the solution is to listen and genuinely ask questions because you are interested. And I think, you know, with instant gratification, it is difficult to be completely present and to actually know somebody. You know, we know what they're going through, and we think we have a solution, but
are we empathizing properly?
8 times out of 10, somebody doesn't want a solution. They want just you to hear, and people want to be seen and heard and validated at the end of the day. If you want to sum it up in 3 basic things.
There's another funny thing that when you said that was, like you say we're good at problem solving. I can't remember where it was, man, but I was watching this video the other day where a person basically said, like, the reason why successful people are successful is because, and like they've typically had hard backgrounds or like difficult backgrounds, is because their whole life was a problem. So they had to, like, from a young age, they had to become good at problem solving. So as they get older, it's like, well, obviously they're going to succeed because they're the people that fix the biggest issues, and they're the best at it because they have so much experience. So it's just, it was just an interesting point that...
No, that is interesting.
It's like, you don't think about how... Because you're right, like, especially because you also have a consultant background. Like, in the corporate world, everything is sourced to there's a problem statement and a solution. And it's that simple. There's no intricacies. It's just like, this is what we're trying to fix. This is how we're going to fix it. Next. I think that's why people don't probably like working with us, because we're just so. It's like it's a.
Yeah, you're talking about work, but that can go to relationships.
Oh yeah, no, it's true, man.
You know, you hearing somebody talk to you about something, and you are just, this is what you can do. like why are you wasting your time? Just do this.
You're like, this is the problem. You need to do this.
which
All right, let's catch up in 2 weeks later.
yeah, exactly. Let me know how you get on with that.
But it's even weirder when you try to have relationships with people, like, especially like female relationships, because you start looking at everything like a transaction. Like you start seeing, and I think that I have this problem and I need to get out of it really quickly. That's why I don't like being in corporate, because you look at everything way too it's way too analytical.
Yeah, you want to circle back on everything.
yeah, you want to, like, we're gonna double back on that.
Let's touch base later.
all of that lingo. And it's just, I look at it and I'm just like, this is a problem. I can't be looking at a person and trying to get to know them, and in my mind there's a spreadsheet of like, okay, that this is the gross, what's the net, what's the what am I up? What's the what's?
But
the
you told me you're Tiger Woods. You like the spreadsheets.
Okay, funny guys. You like that? You enjoy? Nah, dude, it's I hate it. I genuinely hate looking at people as transactions. I hate looking at it's just not.
I think I mean I think from this and outside of a recording. 1, do you want to be in corporate? Or 2, do you want to better manage how you approach relationships with people?
Yeah, that's
i.e. being more present.
Yeah, you see that
2 key things that have just come out for me from what you said.
Oh no, that sounds like a consultant's answer.
Nah, don't call me a consultant or an accountant.
Because it sounds like it's like, do you? I was like, this guy's playing around with all the linguistics to say the same thing. What was the second point you said? It's like, do you want to utilize your time more, like,
do you want to be in corporate or do you want to be better at relationships?
Oh, you see, again,
in your life. So because you've said you don't want to be in corporate, or sorry, you said, which is why you don't like being in corporate. You choose your words very carefully, so it obviously has meaning to you. 1, and the problem solver in me to solve that is, instead of being a problem solver, being better at relationships, as in not taking your corporate mentality into that.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that'll be a better relationship. I think it'll be a more genuine relationship, if that makes sense. And I like genuine relationships. Like, there's no, like, even between me and you, there's no ulterior motives. There's no, like, there's a net gain. It's just like, this is nice. Let's do more of this. And I want that. The older I get, the more I start realizing I value those youthful, sort of naive things in my life, where I look at someone with there's no spreadsheet. There's just, it's like, being present. Like, I'm just here and this is nice and I just want to do it. Whereas, and I think that's the benefit of when you have an income generator, when you have a company, you can get to live life a little bit more genuinely. You can just be with the people that you just want to be with, and no one has to, there's no ulterior motive. It's like, it's like, this is nice. Like, fuck it. Let's just do this,
So what do you need now to start a business, which is one of your opening lines in this discussion?
I think I've got all the stuff. What I realized when doing my dissertation is that you can have the right idea, but if it's in the wrong place, it's not going to work. And so I've got to come up with the right idea in the wrong place. If that makes sense. And it's difficult because it's like you're somewhat doing the wrong thing to get the right kind of result. But that will pan out. I'm smart enough to put that together. I've already started putting it together. I'm just connecting the dots. And I just need to put the work in, because starting a company is by no means a small feat. Like, you really got to work a lot. Like, I've just the research of conceptualizing it is just difficult. And I want to run a company. Like, if I'm going to build a company, I need to do it properly. And I've put all the stuff together. It's there. But it's just like, you got to put in the elbow grease, man. So I'll do it as and when. I've got it, but I don't want to be in a position 5 years from now where I still have a corporate job and I'm like ruining the fact that I didn't do what I needed to do when I knew I had to do it.
And what is your biggest obstacle?
Myself. I am the biggest
You are the problem and you are the solution.
Yes, I'm the, like, it's something Jordan Peterson says, like, you know inherently, like, you know what you, like, you're not a very good self-governing creature. Like, you know you shouldn't be doing certain things, but you do them.
Or you should be doing certain
The
things and you don't.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's like, that means there's motivating things in you don't even understand. And this thing, yeah, it's like, as I said before this, off this recording, it's like, there's things that are within you that govern you, that you have no idea. Things that are in you that are way older than you. You could be, as an example, wearing your great grandmother's nose, and you think, that lineage didn't have an impact on who you are. Like, I was watching Sex Education as an example, and one of the lines was talking about sexual pheromones. Like, there are people in this world that have sexual pheromones that you are inherently, like, attracted to without. It's like there are so many things that impact you that you don't know about, and you still believe to some degree that you have free will. So I'm doing my damnedest to put things together the way that they should be, but some things are out of my hands, I suppose.
It's almost as if you should just flow. You should stress and focus on things that you can control.
Yeah.
And the rest.
That it happened. Taoism, bro. Big old Taoism, and that's precisely it. Like,
which is probably one of the hardest things to do. Is to.
I didn't ask you. What are your two things? Oh yeah, you said being present.
You didn't ask me.
I didn't.
You didn't ask me. Okay. But thank you for listening. So one is probably being present.
Yeah.
The second one is probably just backing myself.
Being confident. Getting out that shell.
I think I'm confident, but just backing myself.
Okay.
To the finish line.
Okay.
I can take it 70%, and then you start thinking about 1,000 things.
And then all of a sudden,
you're doing due diligence. You almost finding a problem.
Yeah, you're finding new problems.
You want to find a problem to
validate you doing more due diligence because you like doing
and to just stay there.
Yeah.
So it goes back to just continuously growing and just stepping out of that needing external validation, which is a common theme throughout this discussion. So, for me personally, if I could be more present in relationships, in daily activities, going to the gym, for example, a simple task.
Yeah.
Going to the gym for an hour without checking my emails.
Okay.
I could be in between sets and I'm hitting refresh.
Just to check, am I CC'd on anything? What is that thing?
It takes you away. What is the point of going to the gym and having a beast mode mentality when you are the guy flicking and refreshing your emails? It doesn't make sense. So there are a few things that don't tie up and don't resonate, and are almost contradictory. And thinking about it now, one of them is actually going vegan. And I think society views veganism as being sort of this elite or I'm better than you, better than you.
It's definitely a cool thing to do at the moment.
It seems cool, but it's actually deeper than that for me, and thinking about it and processing it is actually doing certain actions that don't resonate with who you are.
Yeah.
It causes so much of friction. You're saying one thing, but then your actions are another. You're saying, you're
not in flow.
And not to get into this debate, but you're saying, no, I value animals, or I can learn from them, or watch this documentary. And wow, fascinating, deep ocean, 80% of the ocean we haven't even explored, but you see this in a documentary and you're like, wow, I can learn from that. But then with the same breath,
as you're eating octopus. So
exactly, a being that has feelings and emotions and can think and express and work in a community, and it's almost you're saying you're almost a hypocrite. And outside of I guess diet, you can be a hypocrite in so many other things. You can be a person outside, but when the lights are off and you go to bed at night, you are a different person.
You're not congruent.
So for me to just align those things in less friction, more oil,
I see
or
what you
operate
mean.
like a machine.
You're trying to work in alignment with the highest version of yourself.
Exactly. I think that is well synthesized, as you always do.
I appreciate
Take a complex problem and
Put it
and break it down and synthesize it. I think that is well said. So, let's see.
I like that.
Let's see. I think it leaves room for more potential than working opposite. Your mind is one way, your body is another way. For example, lockdown. Many people became mentally stronger. Physically, they became weaker. Or immediately, you're going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Emotionally, you're one thing. Your body looks good. Emotionally, you're in a mess.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're on this path, but emotionally, you're weak. So
else,
until I think you get them all three things, or however many
things,
is in your experience, align them. I think you just become. Ideally, you want to become a master of your universe. I was going to say the universe, but you want to become a master of your universe. And for me, in order to do that, you need to be hitting all cylinders, same direction, moving freely, well oiled. When they need to be oiled, you switch off. Less TikTok, less Instagram. And when you need to be on there, when you're promoting yourself and promoting your music, then you're on there, full swing. And when you need to take a step back and recharge, you do that. So
fully.
It is difficult to have your mind, your body, and your emotions all heading the same direction. You can be running on a treadmill and you're feeling fit. Mentally, you refreshing emails. Physically, you eating unhealthily.
That is like the definition of being present. Like literally, it's like I am there. I am all there. There is no part of me that is like thinking about. It's like I am where I am, and I am doing what I am doing fully.
Yeah, again, I think that's well synthesized, and there's this book I'm reading. It's about breathing, and we all know, be conscious of your breathing, breathe better, but until you actually understand the dynamics of something so simple, when you're happy, your breathing changes. When you're angry, your breathing changes. When you're aroused, your breathing changes, and being able to be conscious of that automatically, I think, makes you more present. And another thing I would like to do more of
is just being aware of your breathing.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm hungry. This was the.
I am hungry for success. I'm sure you are as well. And yeah, let us get it.
How do you think the first one went?
Are we still recording?
We're still. I'll edit it out.
I think. I mean, you can even include this inclusion or conclusion if it gets there. But I think I think it needs to be more positive. I think the messaging, the overall messaging, I think needs to be more positive. It's as much as we debate with each other.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a point where I can tell you that password. Don't forget the @ sign. I think overall, we need to extract the positives from each other.
I agree with you. I think
as opposed to it getting to a debate and getting heated, it needs to be.
Oh yeah. So one of the things that's interesting about when you do it like this is that when you do, because like in this conversation, there's no interviewer interviewee, and that's the thing about most podcasts is that there's someone being asked and this is more just like conversational, right? It goes both ways.
No, fair enough.
The interesting thing about that is that you get to, and I think people enjoy this even from seeing people that they idolize. You understand the thinking pattern, and you understand the viewpoints. So, like there was a statement that was like, pessimists live longer than optimists. But I think there's an underbelly in understanding patterns of consciousness. And what we do very well, I suppose, is really dive into those details conceptually. And if someone has to listen to this, they'd probably take a step back and be like, oh, I didn't see it like that. Or, it's all about perspective, and that's the key thing. So it may not be motivational, and I think there's pieces in there that could be. Definitely you can chop pieces and give a put some classical music behind it and give it that positive feel. But it's, I think when you take the viewpoint, when you understand, like you talked about awareness, which is a good one. Like when you're aware of all the risks associated with going in a certain direction, and you accept that it's all upside. And I think when people when they think about or conceptualize their own version of success, they need to understand the underbelly. And I think the way we think will give a picture into that. Because I don't think anyone can tell us our fallacies. Like you have a fallacy and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Like if someone gives you a psychological breakdown of yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I'm fully aware of that. It's like, so why do you do it? You're like, oh, it's got some utility, or rather like, oh, I'm working on it, but it's something that doesn't necessarily have a negative consequence on my life. So it's like I've got so much else to work on that I actually don't need to. I think there's a bunch of stuff in there. But it's more than anything else, man. You'll finally get to hear, or I'll let other people hear, what your thinking process.
Yeah, no, if it makes it there, and one thing I just want to say is that for me, seeing you grow, one of the key things that stood out for me is how you were able to put your ego aside. As confident and sure of yourself as you are, in a heated situation, you were able to listen to me, say your viewpoint, move your ego aside, and move on graciously. For me, I think knowing you for as long as I know you, to see that growth, it's fantastic.
Hey man, likewise, bro. So yeah, we're gonna say goodbye, go eat a wrap, and we'll see whether or not this gets 1 million views. Peace.